Action. All
All right.
right. Well, welcome to the second roundtable video call. Today we're going to be focusing on what? What are we going to be focusing on today, Luby?
Tonight we are going to focus on, again, the Order of Pillars, but in particular, the life of Charlie Kirk and what he did in his life, and how the Order of Pillars, each pillar reflects parts of Kirk's life and how it can hopefully motivate people to build a legacy of their own, something that far outlasts them and changes lives. So.
What is it that you know about Charlie Kirk? Who is Charlie Kirk?
Well, so like I said, I want to go with talking about Charlie Kirk, kind of give a moment of honor of his life, and I'm not trying to be in a political way. Don't care whether it's right or left. It's just an overview about a good man who I think lived a very inspirational life, and in a way that highlights him, his legacy, the example he left for us. Charlie Kirk was a young, ambitious, intelligent, deeply rooted in faith. He's devoted to his family. He was tireless in building something that was much bigger than himself, something that is exactly what the Order of Pillars is about. Men who take responsibility, who live with purpose, and who strengthen every area of their lives. And I think Charlie embodied these pillars. And we just basically want to reflect on that as both a tribute to his life and as, kind of a challenge for all of us to try to live up to higher standards.
All right. Good. Do
Before
you
I go
think?
on,
Uh-huh.
did you want to say anything about Charlie Kirk? What did you know about him? Or
Well, I mean, in case anybody listening to this has been living under a rock. So Charlie Kirk was basically a political activist, not technically a politician, as far as I understand it. He, some people agreed with him, some people didn't agree with him. Ultimately, got assassinated, and publicly in front of everybody, including his family. And me personally, I followed Charlie Kirk for many a years, like at least like 4 or 5 years, and kind of following ever since he like started debating people all by himself with a little dinky plastic table in the corner of a building or something, and it grew to what we saw recently. So it hurt me a lot to know that they assassinated him. Um, and since I followed him for so many years, I kind of saw his character, and I think it does, in fact, embody a lot of what we're trying to promote here with the Order of Pillars, each one of these characteristics. And I would say that's probably why we're focusing on Charlie Kirk. One, because it's a recent event that happened, um, and two, because of how he reflects each one of the pillars, each one of the characteristics that we believe make a proficient and a man who excels, at least in our opinion, I think. And that's pretty much it.
yeah, no, I agree. I've known of Charlie Kirk for many years. I heard his name going around in circles and causing, I guess, problems, but just being kind of a political activist, not in a negative way, just kind of an up and coming star. I don't agree with everything that he had said. I agree with some of the things he said, other things not so much. But regardless, he was very outspoken. He was an intelligent man. He was somebody who stood by his values and I believe wanted to make society better. And through politics, he was hoping that he could get the ability to change people's minds by just conversing. And I think that's something that we should all be striving for, right? Regardless if we agree or disagree, is just to be able to express how we feel and try to understand each other's point of view. But with that said, I just wanted to give a little glimpse of his life. Anybody who doesn't know of him, just kind of give you an idea and a background. Even people who know of him from random clips, most people don't know some of the details. So, Charlie Kirk, he was born October 14th in 1993. He was born in Arlington Heights in Illinois. He was raised in Prospect Heights. He came from a family that was involved with business and conservative thought leadership. So from a young age, he developed strong political interests. He was encouraged by reading works from many different people, such as Milton Friedman, which, by the way, if you don't know who Milton Friedman is, I highly recommend you look into him. Very influential economist. I think he has a lot of interesting views, but he started Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old in 2012. He co-founded Turning Point USA, which was aiming to build a student-led organization that advocated for conservative ideas on college campuses. And through robust grassroots engagement, social media, campus debates, the prove me wrong type situation that he had a table, he did speaking tours, and through donor support, he grew TPUSA into a major conservative youth movement. He wrote multiple books on politics, education, the free market. He hosted a TV show called The Charlie Kirk Show, which is still running now with other people. Actually, I think JD Vance was just recently on there. He obviously was known by Donald Trump and many other people. So along with many speaking engagements, he was known for his ability to connect with young people, especially via social media, podcasting, and live events. He was very good at translating complex ideas into arguments and helped inspire the right youth come up to be more politically active. He was married to a young lady named Erica, and he was married to her in 2021. They had 2 children together. Quick backstory, if you don't know, which I just found out not too long ago, how they got together, which I think is super cute, and it really says a lot to who Charlie Kirk was. He went to meet up with this young lady, Erica, after he had an interview on Fox, and she was a prospect who tried to get a job at Turning Point USA. So he said, "Hey, meet me up over at this, random restaurant." She didn't know what the restaurant was, even though she lived there for years. So she met him there. He was there before her. They got together. They started talking about all different topics: politics, theology, philosophy, all the things that were near and dear to Charlie Kirk's life. So after several hours of them talking, going through all these different topics, he eventually started asking her about work and seeing what she was interested in, et cetera, et cetera. After a few hours of speaking with her, he basically told her, like, "Okay, well, look, I'm not going to give you a job." To which she was like, "Well, I mean, I already got a job. Like, I don't need the job, but I appreciate you, giving me the time." And he goes, "No, I don't think you're a good fit for the company, but I do want to date you." This is the first time he met her, and so she was taken aback by it, and she's like, "Well, I mean, we could be friends, and then we can see how that progresses from there." And just bluntly, he goes, "Look, I have enough friends. I don't need any more friends. I want to date you." And so she, again, was just kind of flabbergasted by it. She's like, "Okay, well, I mean, do I have time to think about this?" And he was like, "Yeah, you have until tomorrow when we go out again to this other restaurant." And so in that, it shows how he was so geared towards, look, I know what I want and I go after what I want. He wasn't trying to play games. He, you know, at a young age, he was just like, look, I'm serious. I'm not trying to mess around with all these different girls. I'm not trying to date you and, kind of mess around without being anything serious. He just went in for the kill right away. Um, After they went on their second or third date, I believe, he goes, "Hey, I have this meeting in Hawaii. You should come with me." And so within a few days, they started dating, and he took her to Hawaii. So I was like, it's it was it was a very cute story. But yeah, they had two children. Despite the demands of leading a national movement, he managed to keep family part of his identity, often speaking publicly about the importance of faith, family, and legacy. Throughout his work, Charlie emphasized faith, which he was a devout Christian, not just as a private belief, but as something that gives moral grounding, shapes purpose, and demands courage. His public statements, his books, his speeches often linked faith with personal responsibility, truth, and mission. Um, he helped shift the landscape of youth politics in America. Many young conservatives say they got involved because of his work. And again, if you don't know, maybe living under a rock or something, he was assassinated by a young kid, shot in the neck.
Allegedly.
Yeah, let's say
I heard
legal
that pause.
for legal reasons, allegedly. He did, but somebody for sure assassinated this guy, 31 years old, while on stage in front of thousands of people, including his wife and children, and um, and he bled out. He was shot in the neck, and it was, if you haven't seen it, I don't recommend watching it, but it was something that it sticks with you. To be assassinated simply for wanting to sit down and have conversations with people who disagree with you, obviously is completely reprehensible. So that happened on September 10th while speaking at a college campus in Utah. His death shook countless people. I'm sure you've seen videos and stuff all over the internet of people holding vigils, of people crying, different conservative and even liberal people who disagreed with him breaking down crying because it was such a horrific way to die and for no reason. So
globally at that.
yeah, across the world, people were deeply affected by it. He touched people across political lines. So just a key takeaway: Charlie Kirk's life was marked by youthful ambition, relentless energy, strong faith and leadership, and a clear sense of purpose. He built something big. He built it at a very young age. He combined public speaking with writing and organizing and media while balancing family life and faith. So whether you agree with him or not, his impact is one of example. And I believe how a man can live consistent to his values, take risks, and leave a legacy that will outlive him and obviously will continue to shape a lot of people for a long time. Before I go on, you got anything to say or add or anything?
Not really. I mean, we want to put him. We want to compare him and his life to the pillars. But whoever's listening, go ahead and tell them what those pillars are. Of course, the name of, if you're listening to us on YouTube, then it's the Order of Pillars. And if you're in the community already, then you already know the name of the community is the Order of Pillars. And if you're not in the community yet, go to the description, click on that link, and go in and join the community. But basically, a really quick side note for people who don't know what the Order of Pillars are and why we're comparing or describing Charlie Kirk to each one of these pillars. What are those pillars?
So as we talked about in the last video, which I haven't seen it, go and check the last video that we have up, and it's basically talking about what the order of pillars are, how to navigate the site, what we're trying to build, etc. But as a quick recap, it's a men's community trying to strive to improve men through challenge, through a structured program that we have out, still under construction.
I don't know how many videos are going to go by. We're just going to disclaimer.
Exactly.
Under construction.
Post it somewhere, just under construction. But yeah, so the 7 pillars in no particular order, but the 7 pillars are faith and purpose, fitness and health, finance and stewardship, provision and preparedness, brotherhood and community, and legacy and impact. So we believe that these are key areas of any man's life that should be worked on consistently for your entire life. You know, whether you started this community and then decide to leave or whatever else, these we believe are some of the key areas that if you constantly strive to improve, your life will be demonstrably better than, you know, if you don't touch on any of these at all. And I believe a lot of these are things that, you know, you might be doing 1 or maybe 2 and then letting the other ones fall by the wayside. So to have a nice, well-balanced life, and again, to build something of legacy, something that outlives you, you have to strive in all of these areas to be the very best man that you can. So, let's see here. So we already talked a little bit about his earlier life. So with regards to how he lived his life and tying it into each pillar. So let's start off with faith and purpose, because Charlie Kirk was very outspoken about his faith. If you don't know myself, anybody who knows me knows that I'm very outspoken about it. My brother is as well. We are devout Christians, and we let that lead our lives and give us purpose throughout everything. So to start with faith and purpose, Charlie consistently put faith at the center of his work, publicly rooted his mission in God's truth. His faith guided his decisions, shaped his discipline, and gave him courage. So Charlie was bold in living out that faith. He wasn't ashamed to talk about God, and his purpose was bigger than his own success. He believed in eternal truth. He let those truths anchor him. And for us, that's the challenge, right? To put God and purpose first in our homes, in our works, and in our lives. With that, I did want to ask you, and anybody who's watching this, you know, Charlie anchored his mission in faith. So, Nikki, for you, what's one way faith or purpose keeps you steady when life feels chaotic?
What's one way faith and purpose keeps me steady when life is chaotic? The way I see it, it's unchanging. So God is unchanging. However, everything around us changes. Our circumstances, our financial circumstances, possibly relationships, geographic location. Everything changes. Politics change, economy changes, emotions change, things we like and dislike change. Everything changes. But the one thing that I can hold on to that I know will never change is God and my faith. And that helps me navigate a world that is forever changing, and sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but it's constantly changing. And sometimes I just need to get grounded into the never changing pillar that is faith. I don't know,
Yep.
like for you.
So me personally, I've gone back and forth um, with the level of conviction that I've had. Um, it's definitely gotten stronger the older I got and the more trials and challenges that I've gone through. And I've really found that when rubber meets the road and you start having chaos happen around you, bad things happen, um, it's easy to get nihilistic. It's easy to get down and lose sight of, like what's it all for, right? Why are we dealing with any of this? So for me personally, I found that my faith, like you said, helps keeps you grounded. It gives you something to focus on that is outside of yourself, and it also challenges you to focus on others and not yourself. Um, it's easy, especially in this world, to get all about me, instant gratification, etc. But I found that diving deeper into my faith, it transcends you, and in doing so, again, it challenges you to love your enemies, right? To focus on others, and um, it brings a certain level of happiness to my life, knowing that there is something above that loves me unconditionally, and that can give me that strength. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, and there is like that component where for those of you who don't believe in any higher power, um, there is this conviction comes from somewhere, not just us, but Charlie Kirk as well. He was super convicted, and we can go all the way back to the apostles, and their conviction led them to death and torture. And why would people be so convicted? It's because there is truth to it. Whenever you touch that truth, whenever you explore that area, the entire world can tell you something different, but you've already experienced it, you've felt it, almost palpable. And that's where that conviction comes from. So in case you have no faith in anything, i I promise you, if you begin searching, yeah, God doesn't play hide and seek. So he'll let you know he's there. And then, like I said, I promise you, once you feel that, once you know that truth, you never go back. And it helps so much in every aspect of life. Um, but and well, Charlie Kirk awoke that among millions of people that maybe were spiritually dormant, but everything has a purpose. I believe his death also had a purpose, and he awoke something powerful in a lot of people, spiritually speaking.
Yeah. Sorry, I was moving my screen a little bit here. Trying to get this. Let's do that. Oh, it's so bright. Let's leave it. Anyways, yeah. Uh, Again, on Charlie Kirk's life, in that chaos of them taking his life, it gives you that grounding, and it gave that grounding to his wife, and I pray that it gives it to their children when they get old enough that even in dying in such a horrible way, they know there was something other than just this life. As soon as he passed away, while it was heartbreaking, it's nice to know that he's with God. And again, that that underlining truth, that conviction helps navigate again a chaotic situation like your husband passing away, or your father passing away. So anyways, second pillar, the fitness and health. Now this is typically fitness is geared and it's thought about physical fitness, right, and physical health, but there's more than just physical. So it's not physical in this sense. It's more of a mental stamina. I think anybody who would look at Charlie Kirk, I mean, I'm not gonna speak ill, but I mean, I don't think anybody thought he was some kind of a power lifter. But
Don't you mess with Charlie Kirk.
but nobody can deny that he had a fitness of mind and a stamina to be able to keep up with the demands of running an organization, of keeping a family to go together, of going and speaking for hours on end. And you could probably talk to just how mentally draining and exhausting it is to talk for hours on end. It's not a physical strength, it's a mental strength and a level of fitness that most don't have. So with the second pillar being fitness and health, Charlie lived with energy, he had drive, and he had to, he was building an organization, he was leading a movement, he was caring for his family, like I said. And that kind of life requires discipline. It requires eating right, staying in shape, keeping your body and mind ready for the mission. He showed us that if you want to make an impact, you need the strength and the stamina to carry it forward. So I don't know.
And in his defense, he might not have been like ripped or jacked, but he wasn't overweight and obese. He didn't smoke. He wasn't like a drinker. So I guess he was healthy. He just wasn't the athletic type, apparently. As far as I know, who knows? Maybe he played tennis or something. I don't know, but he wasn't unhealthy per se.
No, by no means. From my understanding, he was actually physically fit. And when they took him, so again, he was shot in the neck. And for anybody who doesn't know basic, physiology, you have an artery that runs down. So his artery was hit. He was bleeding out, and he was dead on the car ride over to the hospital. Once he got to the hospital, surgeons and everything did what they could, and they actually managed to get a heartbeat again. And the doctors say the only reason that he was able to get a heartbeat again is because he was in such good shape. If he wasn't in as good of a shape as he was, they wouldn't have been able to do that. But even unfortunately, with all of their technology and efforts and everything else, it was just too much of a trauma. So he ended up passing away. But again, it shows that he wasn't unhealthy by any means. And again, you can't be, right? If you're going to be traveling, if you're going to be, doing all these type of things, yeah, you might not be on the level of like Arnold Schwarzenegger with muscles or anything, but you have to be physically fit. You're not going to be able to keep that up if you can't, walk a mile without, gasping for air. Okay. So,
how do you think that the being physically healthy, again, you don't have to be like Jean-Claude Van Damme, but or how he used to be, not now. Don't be Jean-Claude Van Damme now. but you don't have to be like super jacked. But why would being healthy, or how would being healthy spill over and benefit any other aspect of a person's life?
So my belief is physical fitness is one of the key areas of life that carries over into all aspects of your life. Being just physically fit, again, not out of shape, like obese or anything like that, if you're just mildly in good shape, you walk into a room and without saying a word, everybody knows off the bat that you have a certain level of discipline to you, that you have a certain amount of, you know, effort that you put in and respect for yourself. And typically that should lead into respect for others. You know, putting in that time and that effort into, be it going to the gym, doing runs, playing tennis, whatever it is, it says a lot about somebody who doesn't just easily give up. So I think fitness is very, very important. Not even touching on the fact of the health benefits of exercise, leaving, you know, rather releasing feel good chemicals into your body, being able to handle stress much easier, your blood pumping better, your brain working better because you have better circulation. Just all around, I think fitness is one of those areas of life that, especially here in the States, gets overlooked because comfort is so prevalent in everything, right? Why walk to the corner gas station or something when I can just jump in my car and go over there, or even leave my house when I can sit here and watch Netflix all day and order Uber Eats. So I think fitness is one of those things that really changes all aspects of your life. Um, what do you think fitness does to an individual?
I concur with everything you just said. I think it has huge benefits, and it helps create discipline. It also helps you physically, emotionally, mentally. And well, if you're a family man like me, it's your alone time. It's like your scapegoat, it's because all day working, and at least in my case, speaking with different people and teaching all day, and I work from home. So in the minute I'm not working, I'm tending to my kids or my wife, and this is my life 24/7. So the hour and a half or 2 hours that I have to go to the gym or go out and take a walk or run or whatever, that's my time. And that's super important for a man, and what better way to have like alone time than exercising and getting physically fit. So it just encompasses so many different things, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. And I don't know. I would probably put it at the top of the pyramid, and everything just kind of topples down from there. Because if you're not healthy, if you don't have health, you don't have anything. It's you try building a business, try running a business, or guiding a family with poor health, and try moving from one house to another or apartment to another. Try doing anything in life when your health is a major problem. Your life becomes 10 times more difficult. So if you take care of your health, by default, everything else just kind of gets a little bit easier. And those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I fully agree. I've heard a saying that, you can have all the money in the world, but the moment you're laying in a hospital bed, you'll give it all up for health. So health is definitely one of the key areas of life that gets overlooked, but is, I mean, without health, what's the point of money? What's the point of having friends, of anything? If you have poor health, it's all for naught.
Exactly. Not to mention, it helps you with the females.
Ah.
For the single guys.
No judgment. If you want a male, I guess, whatever.
Or, farm animals, whatever you're into. What would be the third pillar?
The third pillar is finance and stewardship. One that I am personally a big fan of. Managing resources well. Charlie Kirk built and scaled a large organization, Stewardship, which again ties back in with faith, it's not just about money, right? Stewardship is using influence and resources wisely. So, like I said, the third pillar being finance and stewardship. Charlie was entrusted with resources. He had responsibilities. He didn't waste them. He built structures. He raised support and made sure that what he built could last. For us, the lesson is that money is a tool. It's not a goal. Stewardship means being wise, disciplined, and intentional with what God gives you.
Okay. So, in layman's terms, for those of you out there listening, how would you define stewardship?
I would say stewardship again is properly managing what you have. It's not about acquiring or growing necessarily what you have. It's having the best ability to use what you have to get the best outcomes of the things given to you. So
Independently of whether you make a lot or not.
yeah, and there's, again, I like personally this subject, but I could give you researches and stuff showing there's plenty of people out there making $100,000 or more every year, and they're still living paycheck to paycheck. They're still hardcore in debt. They're incredibly stressed out. So it's not necessarily about how much money you get. It's how much you're able to save, how much you're able to use to, improve your life all around. There's people out there in third world countries who make very little money, and even with that, they're managing to raise a family, to be happy, to be fit, to help others around them. So again, it's not how much they have, it's how much they can help others.
And in case you're wondering, we do help you with that in the Order of Pillars community. So once again, if you've made it this far, a lot of you probably logged off already, but if you've made it this far, then remember, just click on the link in the description of the video, wherever it may be, the top, the bottom, wherever, and go to the community. It is free for now, so jump on in, and because it will not stay free forever. And what would be pillar number 4? I don't know how many do we have. We have what? Two more?
Yeah, we have 7 total. So number 4 is leadership and character. Charlie Kirk, he was a leader from a very young age. He demonstrated courage, vision, and the ability to rally others. That leadership was rooted in his conviction, and not his convenience or his circumstances. So leadership, I think, is a huge area that's overlooked in life. Again, Charlie, trying to focus on him for this whole situation, but from a young age, he was a leader. And if you ever hear interviews about people who knew him at a young age, they would tell you that he was a leader through and through. He didn't wait for permission. He went out of his way to make an impact in people's lives. He showed courage. He showed clarity in a world full of noise and distraction. And leadership isn't about whatever title somebody gives you. It's about taking the responsibility and setting an example. His character gave him credibility, and his vision gave others direction. So that's a model that we should all strive to be. It doesn't matter whether you're a regular hourly employee, whether you're a manager, whether you're a CEO. Leadership is something that you should strive to develop, and not only lead your own life to the best possible outcome that you can, but lead your wife, your kids, your friends, just everybody around you. Leadership is one of those things that that again, we help in the community. We have programs set up so that we help individuals develop the skills to stand up, to stand out, and to know what makes a good leader versus what makes a bad leader. Um, so, question, if let's see, if oh, rather, what's one leadership lesson that you could say that you've learned the hard way?
One leadership, one leadership aspect or characteristic that I learned the hard way.
Yeah, something in your life that taught you the hard way about being a leader.
In case you guys are wondering, we did not rehearse any of this, so he's throwing me a curveball here. All right, so I have to think a second here. So, let me see something. Yeah, I think life pretty much pummeled me down for a while, and I think a big reason of it was because for the longest time, and I didn't even notice it, but for the longest time in my youth, I had a victim mindset. So whatever bad happened in my life, um, I would always blame it on somebody else. I blame it on the circumstances, where I lived, my boss, my parents. I would always blame it on somebody. The day I eventually started, let's say, blaming it on myself, it's taking responsibility, whether it really was my fault or not, because many times maybe it actually wasn't my fault, but I would still say it's my fault. So even if it really wasn't my fault, I would still say it's my fault. And once I took on that mentality, I would say that changed my life completely, because I was able to change who I was. I became a stronger man. I became a stronger leader. And it all happened with just shifting the mindset. Instead of blaming others, I would blame myself, whether I was at fault truly or not.
Yeah. That actually reminds me, again, anybody who doesn't know me, you can see my background. I enjoy reading. My brother enjoys reading as well.
I had no books though.
He has digital books.
Here are my books.
um, there is an excellent book, and I highly recommend to anybody again who's still watching. Which, by the way, if you're still sticking around for this far, kudos and good on you for holding that much attention. But there's a book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willings. Highly recommend to everybody. He was a Navy SEAL, and he actually talks on what you just spoke about. And the concept of extreme ownership is to take responsibility or ownership of anything and everything in your life, regardless of if you think it doesn't, if you didn't cause it or not. The simple fact that you think, all right, I didn't have anything to do with that, I can't change that, etc., you give away all your power. If instead you start looking into what could I have done or what did I do that played a role into that, it now starts giving you insight into things that you can change in the future so that you don't make those same mistakes again. And in that mindset, again, it's incredibly powerful because it really gives you introspective to say, yeah, maybe I didn't cause that per se, but if I would have done X, Y, or Z, perhaps things could have been different. And again, it just changes your mindset totally to take you out from a victim mindset to ownership and a power mindset, an alpha mindset, if you will, that gives you that ability to make that change. So highly recommend anybody who hasn't read that book, look into that book because it's a very good book.
Exactly. A more popular book, in case you haven't heard of that book, is Atomic Habits. A lot of people have heard of that one from by James Clear. That one also speaks a lot on taking accountability with your habits, particularly, but taking accountability, whether it really is your fault or not, it doesn't matter, because if it's in your control to change, then change it. And if it's not in your control to change, then why worry about it? So it's a win-win, right? But all right, cool. Now, pillar 5, we got 3 more, I think. Yeah, 5.
So the next pillar, I think this one's a really fun one. It's provision and preparedness. You can think of this as, a prepper mindset or whatever else, but tying it into Charlie Kirk's life, he balanced family responsibility with his organizational leadership. He provided for his household and he prepared for the future. So Charlie had a wife, he had children who looked to him as a protector and a provider. And at the same time, he carried the weight of a national organization. He balanced it very well, I would say. But he showed that a man can rise to the challenge of providing and preparing. And for us, it means we don't just provide for today, we provide for tomorrow and our families and our community.
Now, would you say that Charlie Kirk or us or anybody, to be a provider and to adequately prepare, is that a solo job, or do you lean on people to help you prepare and build that future?
I would say ultimately it comes down to you and what you're able to prepare for. But any person who is really trying to prepare to the best of their abilities, they'll know that the weakest thing is to be alone. If you're, prime example again, if you're talking, end of the world type situation, bro, you can have all the food stored that you want. You can have 50 guns. You can have all the water filters. You can have everything else. And it only takes a group of 10 guys that team together, and they will overpower you because you only got 2 hands. I don't care how many guns you got. You can only fire so many bullets at once. Tying it back into the order of pillars, this is a big aspect of brotherhood. It's knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you can rely on others. And that preparedness, not just in food, water, security, or whatever else, you're preparing a network of people that you can rely on. So that is, I think, one of the best preparedness things that we can all do, is to build that network of people in our close proximity, train together, right? Go over resources together, plan on situations. I don't care if people call you a crazy conspiracy theorist or not. Have fun with it, right? I joke around a lot about like, zombie apocalypse type deal, but in playing out these little games mentally, it helps run through situations that if we have a grid down situation, if there's a natural disaster, if there's some kind of, I don't know, foreign conflict that happens to fall on your shores, all these are skills that will trickle over and help in all these different areas. Now, for you, another curveball for you. What's one way that you are actively preparing your household or community for what's ahead?
It's a little hard to say because we don't know what's ahead, right? But let me see, something I'm personally focusing on a whole lot is and again, this is gonna sound a little tinfoil hat-ish, but one, having investments, and or at least a little savings that does not depreciate with inflation. Um, and two, this is the tinfoil hat part, being out of a major city. Because for me, I don't live in a big metropolitan city on purpose. I work from home. I could live anywhere. I could live in any city, any region, any country. But I willingly choose not to live in the capital or in a big metropolitan city, because if something goes down, that's the worst place you can be. And so I don't live in the boondocks either. So I'm not living like in the sticks and shooting deer. I live in a town, but it's a very small town, and when the poop hits the fan, I'm a lot safer here than in one of these big metropolitan cities with millions of people. That's what I think of, and so that's how I prepare. I don't know if you think of something similar or you prepare in other ways.
So, as you know, being my brother, I'm a bit of a crazy prepper. So I personally prep for all kinds of situations. I have extra water stored. I have food storage. I have weapons. I have ammunition.
I know, you're crazy.
Yeah. I am currently in the steps of trying to grow some of my own food. I've got water filters. In my car, I've got a first aid kit. One thing that I would like to do with the order of pillars is, even go as far as to create a kit for your car and to show the individuals, what you can keep in it and how you can use certain items to help get you back home. So be it flares, smoke grenades, all kinds of different random nonsense. So there's a lot of things, like you said, you don't know what's coming, but I don't believe that's something that will necessarily stop you, because you can try to prepare for as many situations as you can up to a point. I mean, heck, I'm not going to sit here and, have freaking radioactive suits and, Geiger counters and like all this, like, I don't have money for that. If I have the money, I will have that. But I can't tell you how many times I've had situations where the power goes out, where, the car acts up and, luckily we have money saved up, or maybe money was really tight for whatever situation and we have extra food. Little things that you can do to help get over little challenges that come. So not to sit on that for too long. The next pillar is brotherhood and community, tying into, preparedness type stuff. Charlie Kirk, I think, did an amazing job in this aspect. He built strong communities that gave men and women a sense of belonging and of mission. And he understood the power of sharing values and accountability. And Charlie created spaces for people to connect, to learn, to grow together. He knew that isolation weakens a man, but brotherhood strengthens him. That's exactly why we're here. We want to help sharpen and help encourage and challenge each other to level up, right? And his example reminds us that, we don't walk alone. And as we've said, and we will continue to say in all these videos, you are not alone, right? You joined this brotherhood, and if you're struggling with something, family situations, financial situations, spiritual situations, whatever else, just know that you're not alone. You can always reach out to us, send us a direct message. If you've gained a connection with somebody in the community, reach out to them. But that brotherhood and connection really helps you through some difficult times. So, and let's wrap this up because I think we've already been here for a hot minute, right?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's watching us now. So, yeah, let's go on to the seventh pillar, the last pillar.
So the last pillar is legacy and impact. Honestly, I think we've touched a lot about this already with Charlie's life, but needless to say that he built a legacy through his Turning Point USA, and he made a huge impact on all of our lives and millions of people's lives. I know there's a lot of people who we've never met Charlie before a day in our lives, and yet when he passed, you felt like you lost a close friend. That's the type of legacy and the type of impact that I think we all want to have in our lives, right? Like at the end of the day, when you pass, not if, we're definitely all going to pass one day, but when you pass,
well, now if we can develop ChatGPT enough, insert my consciousness into.
But you want to build a legacy, something that outlives you, something that people look back fondly about you and say, you know, it's sad that he's no longer here, but he has, you know, children that have great manners and work ethic, and you know, they put God first, that he's touched countless people's lives, that he helped the neighbor down the street, you know, doing minor things, maybe just helping mow their lawn, or you know, I don't know, take out their trash. Little things, you'll be surprised at how big of an impact it makes in other people's lives, because you don't know what other people are going through. Now, Charlie's life shows that legacy isn't about how many years you strive at something. I mean, Charlie was 31 years old, and that impact is powerful. So for you, a question: what's one thing that you want to be remembered for? And this could be for everybody watching as well, but I want to hear from my brother on this topic as well.
Well, I think I already told you once that once I pass, I want you to have like a stuffed version of me in your living room, like looking at you like a peace sign or something, like, you know, but or at the very least, like cut off a sliver of one of my tattoos and frame it on your wall or something.
I don't know if my wife will accept either of those.
But what would I want to be remembered for? I've actually thought of this from time to time, and particularly with my children. I don't care too much what other people think, but I do care what my children think of me. And I want to say, paraphrasing it, I want them to say, he might not have been perfect, might not have been rich, but till the very last breath, he tried. He gave it all. He tried. He worked hard. He tried to be better. He tried to improve. And I want them to carry on with that example. Try. Just try. Don't fall into mediocrity and comfort. Try in all aspects of life. And I think that's what I would say I want to be remembered for. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I've also thought about this long and hard, and obviously there's a lot of things that you wish people look back and think about. But one of the things, which again is why we started this community, this Order of Pillars, is I want to be remembered as somebody who genuinely loves and cares for other people and who wants the best for other people, who, like you said, tries, who tries to make a difference in my life and in everybody's life that I interact with. It might not be a huge deal, but just as something as simple as shooting a text out to friends. Um, I've touchingly, I've had friends that I've known for a very long time that I reach out to every so often, and they tell me, I felt alone in a lot of areas, but when you reach out just to see how I'm doing and stuff, like it really helps me. It gives me strength to know that I'm not alone and that I'm not dealing with these things alone. Um, Complete side note on that. I had one guy who who I was working with as a telemarketer years ago. Horrible job though, by the way. If anybody ever thought about getting a telemarketing job, don't do it. But I'm a big advocate on cryptocurrencies. This was years ago, and I was talking his ear off, as my brother can attest that I do all the time.
As you all can see.
But I was telling him crypto, Bitcoin, da 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 da, and I stopped talking to him after I left that job. And randomly, probably like 3-4 years later, I get a text randomly from somebody, and he goes, "Hey, if this is Ricardo, I just want to say thank you so much for really like hassling me about getting Bitcoin. It's been the best investment that I've ever made, and I really want to thank you for that. And if this isn't Ricardo, go buy Bitcoin. You won't regret it." And so I reached out to him again. We started talking, and again, it's little things like that I get absolutely no benefit, whether people work out or they try to be a good godly person, or they get their finances in order, or whatever else. It doesn't directly affect me, but what is really really nice is knowing that I've made a difference in somebody's life. So I want to be remembered as somebody who loved others and tried to make a difference.
Well put. And on that very deep topic, if you're still here, if you're still watching us, in the comments below, whether it be in the community or if you're on YouTube, in the comments below, write out what you would like to be remembered for. What would be the ideal legacy that you want to leave behind? And I would love to hear the different perspectives of all these different people who have different thoughts and what's important to different people. I think that's super important. Now, to wrap up one more time, if you're not following us, follow us, click like, share. And if you're not in the community yet, click the link in the description, get into the community, and before the paywall goes up. And stay tuned, because every week we're going to be dishing out different videos, different topics. In this case, it was with the great Charlie Kirk. Whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, he left a huge impact on the planet. I don't know if you want to close with anything.
I just want to add in, don't forget that we have a Facebook page as well, the Order of Pillars. I'm sure you'll add it in to the comment sections or something. By all means, go join there, interact there. We post regularly, random stuff. And yeah, we really hope to have you into the community. And to get your feedback and to help grow this brotherhood and make an impact in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. Strength in unity. Perfect. Well, we're going to let you go. Peace out, and we'll see you next week.